Halloween is just around the corner, so it would be a good idea to look at the scariest moments in the Star Trek universe. Now in the Star Trek universe, humanity was able to free itself from many of the horrors that plague our real world, including disease, war, inequality, and greed. But there are other horrors out there in space just waiting to be discovered, and as Starfleet struck out into the great unknown in search of new civilizations, it ran across many of them. While Star Trek generally isn't the scariest of franchises out there, it still has a fair few horrifying and or disturbing moments. And in this video, as a special Halloween treat, we're going to be taking a look at 6 of the scariest. Welcome to Trek Central, I'm your host Captain Jack, and let's get into it. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. Now we're enjoying making these Star Trek videos on various topics, and we hope you are too. If you want to support their development, please join our Patreon via the link below. You'll get exclusive access to videos and events, as well as more Galaxy class rewards. As always, please let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. Okay, engage! We're going to start off a scene from one of Strange New World's best outings, the Season 1 episode, All Those Who Wander. This episode was a somewhat tribute to Alien, and it's probably Star Trek's most well done horror episode so far. For this video though, we're just going to be focusing on the one particular scene, the episode's homage to the infamous chest burster scene from Alien. By this point in the episode, the audience has been told little about the Gorn's breeding process, other than they abduct people to take to their breeding planets and inject them with their eggs. The scene is a first-hand look at the rest of that process, as Gorn hatchlings burst out of one of their victims and immediately get to killing, with one slashing Cadet Cheer's throat open and 2 more attacking one another. It's grisly, especially for Star Trek, but the gore isn't necessarily what makes this scene so horrifying. What really makes the scene is the tension. While we're not explicitly told what's going on, we figure out what's happening before the medical team does, and the show gives us a good 2 minutes of Buckley breathing heavily and seemingly increasingly pained before the hatchlings finally burst out. This both builds the tension and helps convey how horrific this is from Buckley's perspective. By focusing on his breathing, the scene encourages the audience to focus on him and his pain, and thus imagine how what he's experiencing would actually feel. Of course, the actual chest bursting is horrifying too. While it is a well-known trope at this point, it's still effective. The way the newly hatched Gorn immediately get violent adds to this by establishing just how vicious these creatures are, capping off the horror of the scene and building the hatchlings up as a threat for the rest of the episode. Our next scene comes from the episode Penance from Star Trek Picard, which shows off an alternate version of the year 2401. In this timeline, humanity established an expansionistic empire, the Confederation of Earth, after achieving warp capability and wiping out any alien species it came across. Over the course of this episode, we learn that the Confederation destroyed the Borg and captured the Borg Queen, who appears to have gone insane in the absence of the collective.
Time has been broken.
As we'll discuss in a later entry, the Borg are one of the most terrifying enemies in Star Trek. To see them so utterly broken like this implies that this version of humanity is even worse. That alone makes the Confederation of Earth a horrifying concept, a horror worsened by the fact that this civilization is a perversion of our own. But seeing the Borg Queen in this state is unsettling on its own. She knows that something is wrong with the timeline, and while struggling to process that, she's also dealing with the agony of having lost the collective, almost her collective. To live your whole life with an endless chorus of voices inside your head, and then for all to suddenly go quiet, is a horror that we humans aren't really fully capable of understanding. But we can understand the effect it's had on the Borg Queen, and how it's made one of the most malevolent and intimidating entities in the Star Trek universe seem pitiable. Our next scene is from Star Trek Voyager, specifically the Season 6 episode The Haunting of Deck 12. This whole episode was essentially a ghost story told by Neelix, albeit a true one, and while the episode as a whole does a solid job of maintaining a creepy atmosphere, there's one particular sequence that lays it on especially thick. As Neelix and Tuvok make their way through Voyager, as it's been taken over by a malevolent alien force, Tuvok attempts to get Neelix to stop panicking by teaching him Vulcan meditation. Neelix tries it out, and it initially works, allowing him to relive a happy memory, before his anxiety corrupts the vision, culminating in a rather cheesy jump scare. The jump scare is cheap, but before that, the scene does a fairly good job of conveying the horror of a pleasant memory being corrupted by anxiety. It's essentially a nightmare sequence, and one that's more unsettling than most. It also contributes well to the episode in general, which, despite being a ghost story episode, managed to be more tense and creepy than those usually are. Next up, we have a scene from Phage, another episode of Star Trek Voyager. This episode involves Voyager's first contact with a species known as the Vidians, who go around stealing organs from members of other species to keep themselves alive, as their species is being ravaged by a deadly virus. This particular scene comes after Neelix has his lungs stolen by a Vidian, sending him into critical condition. While Neelix might not be everyone's favourite character, this scene of him trying to breathe without having any lungs and panicking when he realises he can't is rather horrifying. It's not a graphic kind of body horror, but it's still body horror, and the way it leaves Neelix struggling for his life for the rest of the episode makes it deadly serious. The prospect of suddenly not being able to breathe for no outwardly apparent reason is terrifying, and is realised pretty well here. In the context of the rest of the episode, this sequence gains an added layer of horror from the very concept of the Vidians and the plague that afflicts them. An incurable disease that eats your organs is also pretty horrifying, as is the concept of an alien empire that goes around luring people into traps to steal their organs before leaving them to die. There's lots of body horror all around, really. Our next scene is from Deep Space Nine, specifically the Season 6 episode, Waltz. The scene in which the mentally unstable Gul Dukat makes his case for why his dictatorship of Bajor during the Cardassian occupation was a heroic undertaking. Although Dukat's rationalization of his atrocities he committed is horrifying in itself, what really adds the scary factor to the scene is how he hallucinates other members of the main cast, chiming in now and again to support his claims.
Time and again I would reach out with an open hand of friendship, and time and again they would slap it away.
Let me get this straight. You're not responsible for what happened during the occupation. The Bajorans are.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
The hallucinatory versions of Damar, Wayun and Kira appear in some shots and disappear for others, but when they're present, they're always in the background, sliding in and out of a shot. It's not a typical hallucination sequence, there's no obvious cue that they aren't real. We're seeing and hearing what Dukat, in his madness, is really seeing and hearing, and the way it's done underscores how unraveled Dukat has become in a very disturbing way. The extent of Dukat's delusions about the occupation of Bajor are another layer of horror. It's evident in this scene that Dukat truly believes everything he's saying. He truly believes he was a saint that did his best to civilize an inferior people, only to be dealt a bad hand by Cardassian command and rejected by the Bajorans. The talking points he spouts are standard colonialist rhetoric, but what makes them truly scary in this scene is how deeply Dukat believes them, and how, when his delusions come face to face with reality, his psyche shatters.
I should have killed them all.
And that is why you're not an evil man.
Of course, we couldn't do this list without mentioning one of the Next Generation's most iconic scenes, the end of the Best of Both Worlds, when it's revealed that the Borg has successfully assimilated Picard.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile.
Apart from being Star Trek's most famous cliffhanger, this scene also encapsulates the true terror of the Borg better than any other. It puts the sheer power of the Borg on display. For starters, the Borg were able to snatch Picard straight from the bridge of Starfleet's most powerful ship at the time and convert him without all that much effort. But the true horror of this scene is in its depiction of Borg assimilation. The threat of Borg assimilation is ever present in episodes that involve them, but this is a rare instance of a long-running character the audience is attached to is subjected to it. This lets us really appreciate how total, devastating, and all-consuming the process is. Picard is completely subsumed into Locutus of Borg, becoming nothing more than a voice of the collective. With strong resolve and opposition to the Borg he displayed earlier in the episode, as well as the unbreakable will we've come to expect from him, amount to nothing. The dialogue in this scene, brief though it is, underscores this. Most of what Picard, or Locutus, says here was stuff that the collective had previously said to Picard after he was taken aboard the Borg cube. Most notably, this includes the phrase, "resistance is futile." That became a bit of a catchphrase of the Borg after this episode, but in the original context of the Best of Both Worlds, Locutus was echoing something the Borg had previously said to him. When Picard had said earlier that he would resist the Borg to his last ounce of strength, the collective replied simply that strength is irrelevant, resistance is futile. In this scene, Picard himself repeats that mantra, and in the process, he proves it's right. The Borg are one of Star Trek's most horrifying concepts, but this scene captures that horror better than any other. Also, special shout out to one of the freakiest scenes, actually no, there's a couple more, One, in Star Trek First Contact, the drill into the eye during the sort of dream flashback sequence. Ugh, that's freaky. Also, Strange New Worlds Season 3. That had quite a few freaky moments. The eyes popping, the Gorn as well, zombie Klingons. Yeah, it was just a freaky season. So, that was a look at the scariest Star Trek moments. But what do you think? Are there other moments you think are scarier than this? Let's be honest, there is almost 60 years of the Star Trek franchise. You're bound to have some different opinions than us. If so, feel free to let us know in the comments below. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. A big thank you to everyone who supported us on Patreon. Your support allows us to continue making these Galaxy-class videos. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends. Goodbye.